Welcome back. If you remember from last time, we talked about note values. Now today we're going to talk about the equivalent rest of those note values. Last week we talked about whole notes, 4 counts, dotted half note, 3 counts, half notes, 2 counts, and your quarter note, 1 count. Now, this is something that I tell my band students all the time. For every beat of music, you also have to have beats of silence as well. Just because it's a rest doesn't mean that you take a break. These are beats of silence, and silence can be very effective when it comes to performing music. Just think of some of the songs that you listen to. A lot of times when you listen to those songs, when you hear silence and then the music comes back in, it's really effective and you feel it. So today we're going to talk about the equivalent rest. Now we're going to use that same tree that we did last week. And we're going to start from a whole note and work our way down, or in this case, a whole rest. So looking at our whole rest, which is on the top, this is 4 counts. You can see that it's a rectangle, but it's underneath the line. That's how you identify that that's a whole rest. Also, remember that we're only talking about 4/4 time. This rest will take up the entire measure, and you'll see nothing else in that measure. Now, if you look at our next rest going down the tree, it's a half rest. And you see that half rest is the same rectangle, but it's on top of the line. I tell my beginners, band students all the time, think of a top hat or a hat. It looks like a hat on top of the line. And so you know that that is worth 2 counts. And the way that you would count that is 1, 2, 3, 4. If we're talking about a whole measure of 4, that's 1, 2. And if you see another half rest, that's 3, 4 within that measure. Going on down, you see a quarter rest. And you can kind of identify this by how it looks. It's kind of like a squiggly mark or a squiggly line, like almost like the letter S almost, but with a few more embellishments. That's a quarter rest, and it's only worth 1 count. That's 1 count of silence. So the question I posed last week or in our last lesson was, if you were to see 4 of these together in a measure, how would you count it? And it's the same as you would do the quarter note. Instead of clapping, signifying that you have those beats to clap, this would be 4 counts of silence. Rest, 2, 3, 4. And those would be 4 counts of silence. Remember, when you see these rests, to always stay engaged. These are beats of silence. You're not taking a break. Also, let's take a look back at our rhythmic tree. Remember when we talked in our last lesson of how the whole note starts at the top, then you have your dotted half note, then your 2 half notes, and then your 4 quarter notes down at the bottom. And then in this lesson, I talked about the whole note, the whole rest at the top, the 2 half rest, and then the 4 quarter rest at the bottom. All right, now let's take this a step further because I really want you to get this. Now, looking at this tree, starting at the bottom, you see you have 4 quarter notes. Only focus on the left side. If you look at the left side, you have 2 quarter notes. We can call those 1 and 2, but if you go right above that, you have a half note. You have 2 quarter notes branching off of that half note. A quarter note is worth how many beats? 1. A half note is worth how many beats? 2. Notice how 2 quarter notes fit inside of that 1 half note. You notice that? Now, look on the right side. It's the exact same thing. You have 2 quarter notes branching off of that 1 half note, and it's worth 2 counts. Half notes are worth 2 counts. A quarter note is worth 1. 2 quarter notes can fit inside of a half note. And you can see the branch off, how I have it stemmed off in that tree, how you can see how the 2 quarter notes branch off on 1 half note and they fit inside of that half note. Now let's move up our tree. Let's go up. Let's climb up. Now you see how you have a half note on the left side and a half note on the right side. Both are worth 2 counts, correct? Now, on top of that, you have a whole note. That whole note is worth how many counts? Correct. It's worth 4 counts. You have a half note that's worth how many counts? Correct. It's worth 2 counts. Notice how 1 half note branches off of that whole note on one side and another one branches off the other. Because if you put two half notes together, how many counts is it? Correct, it's worth 4 counts. So I need you to understand that 2 half notes can fit inside of 1 whole note. Easy, right? Counting to 4 is easy. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You have a half note on this side, which is counts 1 and 2. Have another half note on the other side, which is 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4 fits inside of that 1 whole note. And you have 4 counts. And we're taking it a step further. Basic note value identification. So now, since you understand note values, tune in to the next lesson, because we're going to get into counting some rhythms now. You know a whole note, you know its value, you know a dotted half note, you know a half note, you know a quarter note. So our next lesson is going to be something that you don't want to miss. Tune in for the next one, because we're going to get to count some rhythms, and I think you're going to enjoy it. I'll see you.